The Chicago Bears just pulled off the biggest playoff comeback in their 106 season history. The Green Bay Packers just suffered the biggest playoff collapse in their 105 season history. Final score: Bears 31, Packers 27, January 10th, 2026. A game that swung back and forth 7 distinct times, each momentum shift more dramatic than the last. Soldier Field was buzzing. Chicago hadn't won a playoff game in 15 years. This marked the third time these division rivals met in 6 weeks. The season series was split, with both teams scoring exactly 86 points across 4 games. 3 of those contests were decided on the final play. You could feel the tension before kickoff. What nobody expected was what happened next. Jordan Love took the field after missing 2 weeks with a helmet-to-helmet hit injury. He hadn't played since week 16 when Austin Booker knocked him out at this exact stadium. The rust everyone anticipated. It never showed up. Love came out throwing lasers. First drive, 7-yard touchdown to Christian Watson. Second drive, 18-yard strike to Jaden Reed. Third drive, 1-yard toss to Romeo Doubs. 3 drives, 3 touchdowns. Love became just the second player in Packers history to throw 3 touchdown passes in the first half of a playoff game. The crowd went silent. Chicago's defense, which had prided itself on red zone stops, got absolutely shredded. Love threw all 3 scores outside the numbers inside the 20-yard line, picking apart coverages that had worked all season. He finished the first half 10 of 16 for 155 yards and 3 touchdowns. Green Bay outgained the Bears 231 to 122. The Packers looked unstoppable. Chicago looked overmatched. This wasn't supposed to be competitive anymore. But here's where things started getting weird. Ben Johnson, Chicago's first-year head coach, made a decision that looked absolutely insane in real time. Down 14-3 in the second quarter, facing 4th and 5 from his own 32-yard line, he went for it. Not from Packers territory, from his own 32. The snap wasn't clean. Caleb Williams' pass got batted down at the line. The Packers took over with incredible field position. They converted on 4th and goal to Christian Watson, getting down to the 1. Then they converted another 4th down, this time to Romeo Doubs for the touchdown, 21-3 Green Bay. Johnson's aggression had backfired spectacularly. Earlier in the game, Williams had thrown an interception on 4th down from the Packers' 40 after a miscommunication with rookie Luther Burden III. The Bears' 4th down gambles weren't just failing. They were giving Green Bay short fields to score. The Bears' 18-point halftime deficit was the largest ever in a home playoff game in franchise history. When Prime Video asked Johnson about his aggressive approach, he said he kept his foot on the gas because he knew what the Packers' offense could do. He also knew what his team was capable of in the fourth quarter. That seemed like coach speak at the time, justification for decisions that were burying his team. Chicago didn't punt once all game, not a single time, yet they still couldn't score. 4 of their first 6 drives ended with either an incomplete pass on 4th down or an interception on 4th down. The Bears were playing the most aggressive offense anyone had seen and somehow had just 3 points at halftime. The third quarter started with Chicago driving 76 yards. They reached the Packers' 6-yard line on 4th and 1. This was the moment, 1 yard for a first down, a chance to finally punch it in and make this a game. Carl Brooks exploded through the middle of the offensive line. Williams backpedaled, then backpedaled more. At the 21-yard line, he desperately heaved a pass toward tight end Cole Kmet. Tyron Hopper, a backup linebacker in for the injured Edgerrin Cooper, intercepted it at the 9. Game over, right? The Packers led 21-6 with 3 minutes and 11 seconds left in the third quarter. Williams had thrown 2 interceptions. The Bears had failed on multiple 4th downs. Green Bay's defense was reading every play. Love was carving up Chicago's secondary. This looked like a blowout that just hadn't hit blowout score territory yet. Except something shifted in that Chicago locker room at halftime that nobody outside the building understood. The Bears' defense came out for the second half and forced a punt, then another punt, then another, then another. 4 straight possessions, 4 straight punts from an offense that had scored touchdowns on its first 3 drives. Jordan Love, who had been surgical in the first half, suddenly looked confused. The Packers managed just one first down across 4 possessions in the third quarter. Josh Jacobs, who rushed for 49 yards on 12 carries in the first half, gained just 6 yards on 7 carries in the second half. Green Bay went from unstoppable to completely stagnant. The adjustments Chicago made were league-leading. Their EPA per play in second halves ranked first in the NFL all season. Yards per play jumped from 5.3 in first halves to 6.1 in second halves, second best in the league. Points per drive increased from 2.05 to 2.88, fourth best. This wasn't a fluke. This was a pattern the Bears had established all year. They were built for comebacks. This was about to be their 7th fourth-quarter comeback of the season, but the Packers still led 21-6 entering the fourth quarter. Chicago needed 3 scores just to tie. The offense hadn't reached the end zone once. Williams was 14 of 27 for 177 yards and 2 interceptions through 3 quarters. Completing just 10 of his next 21 passes in the fourth quarter somehow wouldn't matter. What happened next involved a kicker's complete meltdown, a rookie's first career touchdown, and one of the most miraculous fourth down conversions in playoff history. The Bears would score 25 points in the final quarter. The Packers would add just 6. But before we get to the chaos of the final 15 minutes, you need to understand exactly how Brandon McManus left 7 points on the field and why Matthew Golden's acrobatic touchdown somehow kept Chicago's hopes alive despite pushing Green Bay's lead back to 11 points. Because those 2 momentum shifts set up the absolute madness that closed this game. Brandon McManus trotted onto the field at the end of the first half with a chance to extend Green Bay's lead. From 55 yards out, he drilled it through the uprights, except Ben Johnson had called timeout just before the snap. McManus had to kick it again. This time, the ball sailed wide left. 3 points vanished. You could almost hear the collective groan from the Packers' sideline. Nobody knew yet how catastrophic that miss would become. The fourth quarter started with Chicago finally breaking through. Williams hit Olamide Zaccheaus for an 8-yard touchdown. Then rookie tight end Colston Loveland hauled in the 2-point conversion, 21-14. The deficit had shrunk to 1 score. Soldier Field erupted. The crowd that had been silenced for 3 quarters suddenly remembered they were watching a playoff game. Green Bay needed an answer. Jordan Love dropped back on the next possession. He found rookie Matthew Golden on a screen pass. Golden caught it, broke a tackle, then another, then leaped over a defender like he was hurdling a parking meter. 23 yards later, he was in the end zone. His first career touchdown came at the most critical moment of the season. The Packers led 27-16 with 6 minutes and 36 seconds remaining. Game over. Season saved. Brandon McManus lined up for the extra point. The snap came in clean. The hold looked good. McManus swung his leg through the ball and sent it wide left again. The scoreboard read 27-16 instead of 28-16. That single point gap meant Chicago needed only 11 points instead of 12. 2 scores were still required, but the math had changed. The Bears could tie with a touchdown plus field goal or take the lead with 2 touchdowns. The strategic options multiplied because of 1 missed kick. Chicago drove 76 yards in response. Williams found Zaccheaus again for another 8-yard touchdown. Loveland caught another 2-point conversion, 27-24. The Bears trailed by 3 with 4 minutes and 18 seconds on the clock. If McManus had made that extra point, Chicago wouldn't have gone for 2. They would have kicked the extra point to make it 27-23, still needing a field goal to win. Instead, they were 1 score away from their first lead since the opening quarter. The Packers got the ball back. They needed to drain the clock, get into field goal range, and let McManus redeem himself. Except McManus had already proven he wasn't in a redeeming mood. Green Bay drove into Chicago territory. They reached the 26-yard line. On third down, the drive stalled. Matt LaFleur sent out his kicker for a 44-yard attempt. This was the moment. Make this kick, go up 6 points, force Chicago to score a touchdown instead of settling for a field goal. McManus missed wide right. The ball never had a chance. It was the kind of miss that makes you wonder if there's a psychological component at play, if confidence evaporates after the first mistake and every subsequent attempt becomes exponentially harder. He'd left 7 points on the field across 3 separate kicks. In a game that would end with a 4-point margin, those 7 points represented the difference between advancing to the divisional round and watching everyone else play from home. Chicago took over at their own 34-yard line. They needed 66 yards with no timeouts and 2 minutes and 51 seconds on the clock. Williams had completed just 10 of 21 passes in the fourth quarter to that point. The Bears were 1 for 5 on fourth down conversions. The odds favored Green Bay's defense getting one stop. First down, incomplete pass. Second down, Williams scrambled for 4 yards. Third down, another incompletion. 4th and 6 from the Chicago 38. Season on the line. Williams dropped back, felt pressure, rolled left. The pocket collapsed. He kept moving left, buying time, waiting for someone to come open. Rome Odunze broke free downfield. Williams planted and rifled a pass between 2 defenders. Odunze caught it for 27 yards. First down at the Green Bay 35. That throw defied physics and logic. Williams was moving left, throwing across his body, fitting the ball into a window that shouldn't have existed. It was the kind of play that separates good quarterbacks from franchise quarterbacks, the ability to create something from nothing when everything appears lost. 3 plays later, Williams found Kyle Monengai for 22 yards. The Bears were at the 8-yard line with 1 minute 43 seconds remaining. One more play. DJ Moore ran a double move down the left sideline. Cornerback Carrington Valentine bit on the first break. Moore accelerated past him on the second. Valentine recovered, but not enough. Moore was practically uncovered at the goal line. Williams lofted the ball toward the corner of the end zone. Moore caught it standing up. Touchdown. Chicago led 31-27. The Bears had their first lead since it was 3-0 in the first quarter. They trailed 21-3 at halftime, 21-6 after 3 quarters, 27-16 with 6.5 minutes remaining. Now they led by 4 with 1 minute 43 seconds left. The largest playoff comeback in franchise history, 106 seasons in the making, was one defensive stop away from completion. Jordan Love had 103 seconds and 1 timeout to save Green Bay's season. He'd thrown for 323 yards and 4 touchdowns. He'd been surgical in the first half, completing throws into tight windows, dissecting Chicago's secondary with precision. Surely he had one more drive in him. Love completed passes to move the Packers into Chicago territory. They reached the 28-yard line, clock ticking under 10 seconds, no timeouts left, third down. Love took the snap, but it hit the ground. He scrambled to pick it up. The pocket collapsed around him. He heaved the ball toward the end zone as time expired. Jaquan Brisker deflected it away. Incomplete. Game over. Soldier Field exploded. Players mobbed each other at midfield. Caleb Williams raised his arms in triumph. The Bears had won their first playoff game in 15 years. They'd overcome an 18-point deficit. They'd converted a miraculous 4th and 8. They'd watched the opposing kicker gift them 7 points and capitalized on every single one of them. Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur met at midfield for the customary handshake. It was brief, curt. Neither man had much to say. One was advancing to face the top seed. The other was heading home with the biggest blown lead in franchise history haunting him. McManus stood alone on the sideline, helmet off, staring at nothing. His teammates filed past him toward the locker room. Nobody made eye contact. What do you say to someone who left 7 points on the field in a 4-point loss? He'd later call it the biggest disappointment of his career, an embarrassment of a performance. Those words couldn't undo what had happened or change the final score. The Bears became the 4th team in NFL history to win a playoff game after trailing by 15 points or more entering the fourth quarter. Their 7th fourth quarter comeback of the season under a first-year head coach. Their season of resilience captured in one impossible afternoon. 25 points in the final quarter erased 18 points and 15 years of playoff futility. That's what happens when adjustments meet opportunity and a kicker forgets how to kick straight. 7 momentum shifts, 3 hours of football, one game that nobody who watched it will ever forget. The Bears outscored Green Bay 28-6 in the second half. They erased an 18-point deficit with adjustments that had been working all season long. Their second half dominance wasn't luck or chance. It was systematic execution of a game plan built specifically for these moments. Williams completed just 24 of 48 passes. His completion percentage was terrible. His 2 interceptions nearly cost Chicago everything. Yet when the game reached its final minutes, when one more mistake meant the season ended, he delivered throws that will replay in Chicago sports bars for decades. McManus will carry those 3 missed kicks forever. 7 points in a 4-point game. The math is brutal and unforgiving. Green Bay's season didn't end because of one play or one person, but those kicks opened the door that Chicago sprinted through. This wasn't just Bears versus Packers. This was the collision of two teams that split their season series for the first time since 2000, that scored exactly 86 points each across 4 games, that couldn't separate themselves from each other no matter how hard they tried. Until one unforgettable afternoon when everything that could swing did swing, and when the chaos finally settled, Chicago was the last team standing.